right. What's up, everybody? Okay. Audio output. And this is strange having to put the audio stuff on. Sorry, I'm remaking my scenes a little bit today. I'm gonna turn down my music a smidge. Let me know how that is. Anyway, hopefully you guys can hear me. But Nate had a great suggestion, and I think I'm gonna start working this in to the mix. A Sunday live stream to get our bias for the week, and at least for the first couple days, right? Now you should be doing this every morning. Chart prep, right? That will help you get your bias. But I think this will be good to do it for the week. So a couple things to start out. We have a bunch of crap on the screen or on the chart, gaps and whatnot that we've laid out. I'm trying to decide, do I just delete it all or do I just delete certain ones? I think I'm just gonna delete certain ones. So all the sell side targets that I see here, I will delete. I don't know how to get that sell side target. Guess I gotta go to different time frames. No, I got it. 4-hour gap, 1-day gap, those are fine. This 1-day gap down there, yeah, we might get there. We'll see. 8:30 price, gonna get rid of that. That's our current price. Buy side target, midnight price, get rid of those. We have a 4-hour gap here that I think is no longer relevant. So I'm going to delete it. We have a 1-day gap here, which might still be relevant. So not going to delete that yet. We have a buy side. Target on that daily. Okay, we'll try to delete that later. This is okay for now. For 1 day, 1 day, 1 day, 1 day. I don't know if this 1 day is relevant anymore. We have new week opening gaps as well. Let's expand this a little bit. New week opening gap here. Do we think that matters? Maybe. Don't really know yet. This one, I think, still matters. We'll keep that there. What's this? That's a 4-hour gap. Now that we've spread this out a little bit, can I click that green line? I can. No, shit. Wrong one. Wait, what did I just delete? Oh, I was in the fair value gap. Got it. Buy side target. Okay. We'll redraw targets and stuff as we go along. But starting out, let's look at what we're talking about for this whole session, and that's weekly, right? Our weekly bias. Now, I am on ESH 2023, as you can see right there, the 1 week chart. So this is going to not go back forever, since it's that specific contract. It goes back to June-ish, but it's very choppy around there. It doesn't really matter. But if we wanted to get a clearer picture of the weekly, we'd want to look at ES exclamation point, I believe it is on TradingView. And that's where they basically stitch all of the contracts together as they come along to put them all in one big picture. But anyway, so what have we done on the weekly? Even following this sort of choppy chart. Swing high, swing high. This is interesting, right? Because this is like a displacement through an intermediate swing high, not through the long-term swing high, to a fair value gap here before we come down. Now, we do sort of displace, but without a gap down, which leads to a retrace up into this gap. Let me look at something real quick. Isn't that something? That's the golden fib. Always a fucking winner, guys. Get that golden fib. Come back down. Is this golden fib? Not quite. Not quite. And that's actually from that weird CPI candle. No gap. Gap here. This is quite a new week opening gap here that it came down to. Now we're just going through some history, right? Trying to get some context of where we are at on a weekly chart so far. One thing interesting to note, we had a sort of long-term high put in here, and then this little swing high here, which was not swept until here, January. We all know that run up that just happened, and then we had some consolidation, and now we are back into a drop down. Now, the question really is, how far do we drop? Swept buy side. Did not come down into golden fib here, right? I mean, I would really, I'm not going to count that. I'm going to count this. All right. Perhaps I should count that, but we're going to count this for right now. It did come into a discount before making a push to take buy side. Right here, intermediate buy side. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really do think we would see more downside, but that's just a very quick weekly bias. We'll go into lower time frames and see what makes more sense this week. And I think what I'm talking about right here is more of like a monthly bias of more downside. We very well could push up here, and that would make sense as well. So lower time frames will give us a little more information, I think, of the immediate targets for this week. Okay. Big gap down, or candle down last week. Let's go to the daily. So that's how the daily looked. We remember this, right? Huge red candle Tuesday, which took us to a daily gap right here. We held up on that. Then on Wednesday, it looked like we were going to push a little further down. Ended up just sweeping some sell side and coming back to respect the CE of that gap, which pushed us back up, but we respected this new week opening gap. And actually, we swept a big sell side target with this wick too before we did that push. That was quite a day. And then Friday, we ended up making that big push down through this gap, finally sort of cleaning this gap up a little bit. This is the gap from January 23rd. So we sort of cleaned that up a little bit. Buy side has been served. Sell side, buy side, sell side. A little bias here. You know, we go through the time frames and we build up little biases until we get a picture, a story of how the week will play out, right? I think, so we came down here, we took all of this next gap as well before respecting the CE of this 4-hour gap. This was a very significant target because it was within the golden fib from this full move, I believe. No, it was not. Sorry, it was this move. Yeah. Sort of, kinda. No. What the hell did I see the other week? There was a reason why I had that gap, and maybe it's just this that I cared about. Maybe I'm misremembering here. Probably am. Either way, this 4-hour gap was under another significant 4-hour gap that we came through, and I deleted from the chart because I think it's no longer significant. Anyway, we went through all of that and held up on the CE with the bodies, tied the CE again, which led to a little push up, but didn't get much. Oh, sorry, that's so far today. Wow, so far today, hit the CE and had a little push up. I haven't checked out the chart yet today. A little bit, but nothing in depth. So that's pretty interesting because it looks like it hit right on that CE. 39.73.25 was the low here. 39.73. Okay, so it was one tick below. One tick, people, one tick before it started pushing up. It's pretty interesting. Looks like it almost got to this new week opening gap. What I want to see is this next new week opening gap. And see if we just sort of shift that. I mean, honestly, the bias for this candle, as of right now, in my opinion, would be to go back up and at least tap the bottom of this gap. And more likely, the CE of this gap. 3998. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. Stream setup. Okay, YouTube. Cool. Alright, just making sure this is all set up correctly. Like I said, I was changing some stuff with the streaming setup. Okay, so the initial weekly bias that we talked about was bearish, right? Let me bust out a notepad so I can write this down. Okay, so week starting with 2/27/2023 weekly bias, bearish, daily bias, bullish. So I'm just gonna write this down so I don't forget what I have been saying. Now, that doesn't mean all day is bullish, but I am bullish to a point that we hit this gap bottom or this CE. I think more of the gap bottom for a couple of reasons. 50% line of this wick is just in that gap bottom. 50% of line of this wick is just within that gap bottom. So that makes sense. Let's see 50% of this wick. Just below the CE of the daily gap below us. All right. We are still within that. Okay. I don't know how much this new week opening gap makes any sense to keep on here. Actually, this one, that's fine. It's not going to change anything being in there. Weekly gap, yep. That's what I thought. This is a weekly 2, I believe. Yeah. Can't see my text when I'm on the daily here. All right. So let's go into some other time frames here. Let's drop down to 4 hour. Okay. So this is a big swing low that we took out. You'll notice swing low, swing low, swing low, swing low, swing low, swing low. Took this swing low, pull up, crush through this. Now this had 2 4-hour gaps. There was one here that we bounced off of. There was one here that we bounced off of after taking that swing low, and then we crushed through that. Swing low here. We actually crushed all the way down and swept that one before doing some consolidation kind of on the 4 hour. On the 4 hour, it looks very much consolidate-y, right? Tuesday, big drop. Yeah, I mean, those 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, were sort of consolidating, right? Had a little bit of an uptick on one of them, but they didn't move far. And that's because of the displacement here. It really was a breakaway, right? Like this gap, this breakaway gap, we're not gonna go back in and see it, in my opinion. I am not an expert at ICT. Still very much a student, but that's my opinion on that. Now we cleared up this, and then we have another big pool down there, right? That's a huge pool. One thing we haven't marked out is this 4-hour gap. We've got a lot of 4-hour gaps, huh? We still care about this one. Do we care? Let's get rid. You know, ICT is all about these new week opening gaps. He's very, very much about them. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there does seem to be some kind of reaction to it in the immediate, right? Like it sort of holds stuff down, or when it breaks through back again. The same here. Boom, boom. I mean, it works like a gap would. But to me, this displacement came through the new week opening gap, creating a 4-hour gap through the bottom of this 1-day gap, sweeping the liquidity here, and heading back up and reacting off of these other gaps. It could play a part. I really just sort of feel like deleting. Okay, I'm not going to delete them. I keep trying to think of reasons to delete these things. Because it's like, how long do you keep them on, right? All right, we're on the 4-hour. Do we keep this one in the chart? I think the answer to that will be if it looks like price reacted to that CE. Sorta. It was very close, huh? If it was to the tick. Okay, so we have a 39.62. Sorry. The low of this candle is 39.4750. 46.75. Yeah, no, I mean, that's not lining up, right? So I think that's more of reacting to the bottom of the gap than anything. And probably some other time frame sweeping of liquidity. I am not going to care about that gap right now. And I'm not going to care about these either. I want to see the 1 hour. I want to see the 1 hour real quick. A couple things I want to do here is we do have a new week opening gap. I will mark that. So this is gonna be from close of Friday to open of Sunday. Technically Monday, yeah. So we have 39.7450 as the downside. So close 39.7450. And then the upper portion of that box is 39.7650, which is the open of that candle. Okay, so we'll drag that over and we'll style it weekly open gap. Okay. I usually don't draw the CE on those just because they're generally pretty small. So you can kind of eyeball it, right? We do have a 1 hour gap that is opened underneath this current candle that's trading right this moment. We have a 1 hour gap that it is trading in. We have a new week opening gap right above. We have a daily gap right above. we have a gigantic drop that it's working into. And on that gigantic drop, we are still in a discount. Now remember, when we look at the 4 hour or we look at the daily, when I was looking at that, I said this is a breakaway gap. That's this. So we're not even close to that. I just wanted to see where we are in relation. That was this action. Which we did actually trade into one of those, but not that breakaway one. I don't think we get back over that. I don't think that makes sense yet. Just want to zoom out here on the 1 hour and see where we're at for our next sell side. Yeah, our next sell side is very far, right? It's very, very far away. We do have healthy displacement through the swing low there. After that kind of V up deal we had. I mean, the CE of that daily, which was a daily target, right? That was the daily target I was looking at. Yeah, that was the daily target I was looking at. That is like right on the golden fib. It's actually just within it. So that's my first target. For sure. So, first target. Actually, targets. I'm just going to make a list. Number 1. Buy side. 3998. This is my first big target. There's going to be others before that, you know, that it will hit and then come back down. One of those is going to be, you know what, I'm going to ignore the gap for now, the new week open gap. One of those is going to be 399050. All right. But this is a pretty small daily gap, so it's not too much further to 3998. And as far as the hourly looks, I don't think we should have too much resistance. There might be a little here with this hourly gap that we are currently working through. However, I think that would only pull us back to the weekly gap here before going back up. So when I say first target, I think I mean major target, because you could say this is our first target, the weekly gap, going back into that, because I think that will happen first. But let's jump down once again. Let me take one more look. One more quick look. Yeah, that makes way too much sense. 3998 makes way too much sense. I don't think we would want to go more than that, but beware that it could. Beware that it could. Now, golden fib. This is one tricky thing with golden fib is this is a little loud, huh? I'm gonna turn down my main sound a little bit. This is one of the tricky things with golden fib is where do we start when it's a move that looks like this, right? Do we start at this double top, quote unquote, and all the way down, since that is, you could make an argument that that's the move, or do we start with that one because that's the actual move? I think we start with that one. And that's what we did before. But if we pop it on here, that 3998 is actually just shy. Now, we would still be in a premium at that point. So it's still a good retracement plan to look for, 3998. But if we go from all the way up here, top of gap might be a better idea. All right, so just keep that in mind. 3998, then possibly top of gap, which is 400,525. Look for start of bearish weekly case once these are hit. Okay, so obviously nothing is certain, right? I want to make sure everyone understands that. Nothing is certain. However, that's my initial thought. My weekly bias would be bearish. My daily bias for tomorrow would be bullish. And my overnight, I believe. Let's write this down. Okay. 2/26/2023. Weekly bias bearish. Daily bias for 2/26 bullish. I'm going to say overnight bias bearish to weekly gap 397,650. At the minimum. Minimum for drop. So I guess max price. At the least. Then look for bullish case to first target. Okay. So our first target is buy side. 3998. Let's jump to a 15-minute and see if we can find more information on how that move will play out. But yeah, that seems pretty good for me. Let me look back at the daily. Sorry, the chart's going to move around a lot during these sessions because I'm looking at one time frame, evaluating, looking at another one, then I have to go to the other time frames again and reevaluate, right? So, you know, hopefully if you're trying to learn some method here of how to do this, that makes sense to you, and you would do the same. Every time frame you look at will give you different information, and you really need to reevaluate the information you've already seen. with that new information, right? Okay, so let's go back to the daily. On the daily, which is going to be forming our weekly bias, on the daily, I like this to back down, maybe this CE, probably more of 3964, maybe back to the top. And a lot of this action can happen in one day, right? Back to the top, back through. What I would want to see is through, and then up, dip in, or the CE, and then close down to sweep this and head back into this gap before we are at another tipping point. Because then, if that plays out, let me think about this. I think we would be bullish, but that is assuming that this would play out. A couple of things I'm looking at here. This, right? So I don't know if that makes sense to go from the bottom of that, or if you go from the bottom of that. If you go from the bottom of that, this could be it for our golden fib hit, which happened on Friday. All right. If you go from that bottom there, this could be it down here. Oh, that's actually pretty tough. That's actually pretty tough. So let's look at the daily again. We did not sweep, like, we swept, sorry, we did not take that. Like, we didn't displace through any of these with a gap. We did here, but we failed on the intermediate highs. Didn't get that, which is a big order block here, right? And then we have the long-term high to take us to actual bull market there. It is 226. I was very off on my monthly bias last month, but I've learned a lot in the last month, so I don't think I would be as bullish if I did it again. All right. This could actually change a lot. Looking at this again after going down into the other time frames, this could change my opinion a lot. Because if we were to come down here, I think that's quite a lot. And I think it's rather unlikely, actually. And the main reason... Oh, this is tough. This is very tough. But in my heart, I want to think that this is actually an end to the bear market soon. Now, I know that might sound stupid because we didn't start the bear market that long ago. What was it? Like, I mean, you can look at it here. Just ignore this. It was just the March chart, or the March contract, which no one traded. It was a year and a couple months ago, right? And then when we actually broke, I think this was the long-term low, right? When we actually broke that, it was February. So it's just been a year. Do we have another year of bear market? That's the question. Or do we start the road to recovery this year? We're at the point right now. I mean, this sequence here, how it goes. This is like Groundhog's Day, right? Do we have, what is it, 7 more weeks of winter, or whatever the hell the groundhog says? Are we going into a longer bear market, or is this the recovery point? If it is the recovery point, which I think it might be, and the only reason why I would not say it is because look how nice and even this block is here. Like, wouldn't we want to sweep that before starting a bull market? I think we would. I think we would. Yeah. But, all right, I'm talking a lot about this and not getting to my point. If this were a recovery to a bull market right now, this could be it. This candle on Friday hitting the bottom of that gap and recoiling. I still wanted to go to the bottom of the gap again, I think. And fill it in. Okay. We're sticking with a bearish weekly bias. We're sticking with it. We're sticking with it. But just know that this could be it, and we could be on the road to recovery this week with these next couple daily candles. And that would look, you know, like it would come up through here, probably retrace back, come up through here, oops, come up through here, retrace up here, take out these daily gaps, and then some sort of probably small consolidation period. Now I'm not talking about days, I'm probably more talking about weeks here, and then shoot up through here and bust this swing high, and taking with it likely busting through some of this, maybe this swing high. And it's quite a distance, but you never know. It's like 50 handles, 40 handles. Okay. That could be what it looks like. But I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And the weekly is another reason why I don't believe it. We did not displace. We just swept. According to this, we did dip into that, but when we're talking about the move here, we never got down. I think it makes more sense to go down in there. We actually have a weekly fair value gap, which is interesting. That was never, it was touched, but yeah, I think it makes more sense to come down here. when you're looking at the weekly. So remember, we started with the weekly. We said bearish initially. We looked at the daily. We said bullish initially. 23998. And then bearish to this area. And let's go back to the weekly. Sorry, jumping around a lot. I want to mark this. I want to mark this. I want to know where that is. That is, I believe, in that consolidation area. Because I believe that is something we want to sweep in the coming weeks. But not going to happen this week, most likely. Okay. Targets. Let me get back to that. 3998. 400525. I think that is very likely. 400525. 3998. I feel like it's a lock. Like 100%. Obviously, it's not 100%. Don't believe me. I'm just very confident in that. Then work back to this gap, top of gap. I think it busts through the 4-hour gap. I don't think it cares at all. 3964.50 is a thing that it will care about. And then bottom of gap. 3964.50 is also significant because the midline of this gap, or of this wick here, you know, it's not too far off. Yeah, it's a couple handles. So it should react off of one of those two things. And then down here to this. And I think the ultimate target for the week would be to come into. So let's write that narrative down. Okay. New week opening gap. I think we trade to that soon. Trade back to that soon, right? So that's really the narrative. Nate fell asleep through the stream. Oh no. Nate, don't worry. You can catch it. You can catch the video. Let's talk about the narrative. Back to the gap. 3998. Back into here. Take these out. And I think shoot off down here. But could just be chilling. Could just be chilling in the gap. Honestly, with how much movement, and this is like in an old consolidation period, likely just play around between here, right? And then build up to a dump down to here. Probably not this week. But yeah, first target 3998, then 3964.50, 3964.50, right? These are big swings though. So there's going to be a lot in between. But let's drop back down to 15 minute. It's actually already playing out what I talked about with the new week opening gap. Look at that shit. Okay, so something you missed, Nate. When we first started, this fair value gap on the 1 hour was had just basically we'd just been trading back into it. 3998 was a target, like it just closed it. But my bias for overnight, and I'm writing all this down, I'll post it in the Discord. My bias overnight would be to come back into this weekly opening gap right here, which is 397,650 to 397,450, and use that to set up a bullish move for maybe the London session, but we'll see. I would love for it to save that for us in New York, but we'll see how it goes. It's not very much movement, so it could do all of this in London, right? We do have this old New Week open gap that I don't think will matter, but we'll see. I don't think it'll matter. I don't think this 4-hour gap is going to matter back on its way down, but yeah, so that's sort of the narrative here. Come down in here overnight, come up here possibly overnight. I think we touch the top of the gap tomorrow, maybe overnight, but I doubt that for overnight. And then I think we start heading back down and hit top of gap, New Week open gap, CE. Actually, I don't think CE a 4-hour gap. I don't think this 4-hour gap matters at all. CE of this, top of gap again, bottom of gap. And honestly, for this week, probably just come back up and maybe come back to that or just the New Week open gap or something. But I think it's a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and just sort of ends with a doji-like weekly candle. That's my guess. On the week, we have this look right now. Didn't sweep, or sorry, swept, but didn't displace. I think we're ultimately, over the next couple weeks, maybe month, taking this out, hitting this gap, and possibly coming out of that before taking this low. I do think we're on the way to a bull market, but I think it's going to take a couple more months. The beginning of January, or actually February, I was thinking, oh, we're gonna break market structure this month, and it'll be a bull market again. No, we got quite a bit of time before it'll do that. We got a lot to retrace through. But yeah, that's the basic idea. Now, I went through a lot of shit to come up with that. So if you're interested, Nate, please rewatch. I think it's pretty good info. So we'll see how it plays out. I need to rewrite this a little better. I would like to journal this stuff and go back and reflect on it at the end of the week, right? Be cool. So, okay. Let's just do it, right? Weekly bias bearish. I think it will be slightly bearish, even though it'll be doji-esque, right? Initial daily bias for tomorrow, bullish, until we hit this gap, top of this gap. I don't think it comes back up to here. I think this was sort of a breakaway a little bit. Well, the breakaway was on the 1 hour. This. Right, it came back into this, but I think this is a breakaway. I don't think we come back into that. And I don't think we come back into that either. But It could happen. It could happen. I mean, it's sort of flat, right? Which is a good sign that it might want to be swept before we continue lower. But I would say this, if that does want to be swept first, right? If we come up here and sweep this first, I think we're looking at a longer bearish move, right? I think it leaving this and just coming here and finishing a bearish move on the weekly would lead to a stronger bullish move in the coming weeks. But that does look very shelf-like, right? So I could be wrong on that. It could actually want to come up all the way up to 40, 40, 50 and hit that CE. I would sweep all of this. It's pretty juicy. It's pretty juicy. Could take that gap as well and hit the top. And let's think about that narrative, right? See how much of that makes sense. So obviously with a golden fib, it could make some sense, actually. It could make some sense. Could make some sense. Okay. Let me go back to the weekly. It's actually pretty tough when you start getting more information. That would be up in here, right? Shit, let me go back to the hourly. Let me put that golden fib back on there. I want to see where that was. Okay, here to here, right? Now let's go to the weekly. Where's that golden fib? Yeah. Okay. 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 I could change my weekly bias to bullish based off that. Yeah, that seems really nice, huh? Huge down candle swept this. I mean, it's hard on a weekly because you don't get too many swings, like swing highs and stuff like that. And, but it swept this low here, the low of this candle here. Did not displace through, of course. You don't get much displacement on the weekly usually, but that is a displacement there. Yeah, it would make sense to kind of close that up. Maybe even head to the top of that gap. All right. JavaScript on Thursday. Good call. I didn't think about the news events either. Oof. Yeah, this is actually a pretty tough one, but I might change to bullish. My initial thought was bearish still, though. My initial thought was bearish. First target for sure is through 998. Like bearish or bullish week, the first major target is that CE for sure. But we could go to this, and we could go to the top of that. That would make some sense, I think. Yeah, one of the things you missed, Nate, I was talking about how we are really, these next coming weeks will really show if we are heading for like another year of a bear market, or just another quarter, you know? We're at a point right now where we could, and I don't think this is going to happen. I think it's going to be a little bit longer, but we did dip right into the golden fib from this whole move, right? Probably should go lower, but this could be a launching point to actually sweep that swing high over here, which would signify we're back in a bull market. That's a long-term high, right? We have not swept a long-term high since December 2021. Well, that's our last, I guess that's our last long-term high that had swept another long-term high, right? All these other long-term highs have been lower highs, right? The last one that was a higher high was in December of 21. So if we sweep that, that would signify bull market, because we would be making a higher long-term high. And we could do that now. Like, we could be doing that right now. I don't believe we will be doing that, because I believe we will actually be retracing more into this area, because we didn't here, right? We went into a discount and then went up, and we just barely took some highs here. I think we go down, and I think we go down into here before going back up. That's a guess, obviously. But yeah, I mean, if it does want to push highs, it could do it right now. That's the point. That looks a little too clean for me. This whole consolidation period, a little too shelf-like. You see, this one is definitely swing low, right? I think that's a long-term swing low. I don't think that's getting broken. I really don't feel like that's getting broken. Like, ever in the history of the market, right? I think that's our bottom. And might be one of the only times Kramer was right about something, because I believe when this happened and it pulled back up, this was October, just last October, right? I believe he said bottoms in, something like that, right? And everyone was like, oh my God, that means we're fucked. But he could be right on that. He could be right. I think we do sweep these lows from the daily at some point before making the ultimate push up into a bear market or bull market in the long term. But anyway, so yeah, lost my train a little bit, but you get the point. Through 998 is definitely the first target for tomorrow. Possible 40, 40, 50 for this week, and then heading up to the top of this gap for this week before coming back down next week or the following weeks to take this area and sweep this area and probably sweep maybe like this low. Maybe this is it too. Maybe that's the only one. Before going back up for good. So, yeah, major targets on the way down. If we are to just go here and go down, is, you know, these daily gap, this daily gap top, CE bottom, and then sort of working your way up and down from that, and this weekly opening gap. So yeah, bull run or consolidation for this week is my guess. And I think consolidation's more likely, to be honest. Here, here, here. Here, 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 here. You know? And just sort of end up maybe a little bullish on your way to this for the week. Yeah, daily candles are usually pretty big though. So it could literally be between these two gaps. But yeah, I think these are all of the significant points that you want to have laid out. Obviously you can throw some like sell side target here, but it's the same as the bottom of the gap, so yeah, don't really need to do that. Big buy side target here. If we could get there, it's a big one. Let's go back through the other time frames a little bit and just mark out some big targets. That's such a, you know, that swing high that we just saw in the daily, that's that double top, quote unquote, right? That's a huge thing, right? That normally doesn't stay. Like, if we go back, we're on the hourly chart. Where is the last time there was like a double top or bottom like this that wasn't swept? Right? There's some that you could like maybe argue are, but there's usually a swinginess to them, right? Here's a double. Guess what? Swept. Here's a double. Guess what? Swept. That's a whole shelf swept, right? Here's a double, swept. Double, swept. Takes some time sometimes. Double. Oh. We haven't swept that. Oh, look at that. Look at that double. Ooh. Now that's a juicy target. A little double on the hourly. Let's put that on there for sure. Yeah, that's in that daily gap that I had sort of targeted for a bearish week. If we look on the daily, it's definitely a point of interest, this daily gap. I think we get back there. I do think we get back there. But anyway. Back to the hourly. What are we doing currently, right this second? Oh, that 4-hour gap looks like it is significant, sorta. I still think we come down into here. Man, it's hard to see that purple within the blue, huh? I should make that more prominent. Does that do any? Oh, that's the border. Okay. Background. Let's put the, okay. Yeah, we can make it a little more prominent. Weekly open gap. Okay. All right. Yeah, so I think overnight we still go down in here, but anyway, the point with the double tops seems a little too juicy to just leave it up there, huh? We got some buy side targets here. I don't think that's anything we care about. We can always mark them later. Sell side targets. Yeah, why not? And let's go to the 15. There's that sell side target. Buy side we swept. That's significant too. That's significant. Now when you're talking about 3998, I guess this would be sort of significant here. So let's mark that. We might actually want to mark that gap. This wick is interesting too. Look at the oh, that's really weird. That old new week opening gap, like 830 went right to it, gapped right to it, and then dropped like that. That's crazy. On Friday, huh? Just noticed that. I might have noticed it Friday, but forgot. I have a shit memory. That's why I gotta write all this stuff down. Okay, I'll stop droning on. I think that's enough for tonight. How do we feel about getting back to the new week opening gap overnight? I think it looks pretty good. Looks like a good play. Not financial advice. Don't trade based on what I say, by the way. And if you do, it's your responsibility, obviously. Disclaimer, all that stuff. Cool. I think that'll wrap it up. Yeah. I think this is a good idea to do on Sunday to sort of set our week, you know? Like going through the chart in a little more detail. I need to probably do some of this every day. I do a little bit, right? Like my morning chart prep is just basically putting some sell side targets, buy side targets, marking some gaps. That makes sense. It probably needs to be a little more in depth like this. Maybe not too crazy, but it's only taken an hour to do this, and we got pretty in depth. So anyway, yeah, if you rewatch it, let me know what you think. I'll keep this journal with my thoughts, and then we can go back through it on Friday and maybe see how it actually played out. That'd be pretty cool too. Anyway, have a good night. I will see you tomorrow for the opening day, you know. Start trading, make some money. Let's go.